In just a moment, we're going to visit with Todd Bubba Horwitz of Bubba Trading. But first, let's talk about the corn planting progress in these latest crop report numbers that were out yesterday afternoon. Nebraska shows that 35% of their corn crop is now on the ground. That's behind the 5-year average of 47. Iowa, 36%. Illinois, 10%, much behind the 5-year average of 66%. Indiana, 3%. is now planted compared to 35 on the average. In Ohio, 2% compared to the 27% usually this time of year. Over the soybean planting progress, this kind of tells the story as well. Nebraska is ahead by 1%. Iowa is 8% planted. Illinois, 3% compared to 16. Indiana, 1 compared to 12. And Ohio, 1% compared to 9. All right, the grain market today has been a little bit on the higher side. We'll go over here to the corn first. Right now, the July is up 2.5, 366 3/4. The December is up 1.5 at 383 3/4. Soybean market higher also. July up 2.5. November at 854 3/4. That's up 1 3/4 cents. The wheat market in Chicago for July up 4.5 pennies now at 441 3/4. What about July Kansas City wheat? It's up 3.5 at 406.5. So let's say hello to Todd Horwitz, Bubba Trading here. And Todd, yesterday you were mentioning that maybe this market might find a little bit of firm ground, and it certainly has today.
Good morning, John. Well, I think, when you watch markets long enough and you see these dramatic moves, like yesterday was a dramatic move downside. We had the equities are down and grains are down based on what was possibly going on in China. And of course, eventually markets find a bottom. And of course, there's still a lot of China talk today, yet the grains have all come off their lows and are now rallying and look like they want to start to go. So it looks to me as we can not declare a bottom, but be much more comfortable here that the bottoms are now in these markets and then we can work our way higher.
All right, so if you're an end user, do you look at these numbers and try to lock yourself into something here, or what's the next move?
Well, I think you want to wait and see. I mean, obviously the farmers and producers. I mean, I'd always be hedged, but I would wait for a little bit higher movement here. Obviously, if you're a user, you would hedge the other side because I think you want to stop price. If you're feeding your cattle, you want to lock these prices down here. I don't see them going much lower in any circumstances. So certainly, you do the opposite hedge. You hedge alongside of the market, looking for the high prices to go higher and save you on your feed costs. Same as we would do with oil and the other products.
What has all of this done for the volume? What kind of volume are we seeing here today in all of these markets? Not just the grain markets, but the outsides as well.
Well, volume always picks up in down markets, John. So I think what you've seen now is some volume start to come in. And as the rally continues from here, if it does, then that will create a bigger short squeeze, which could see some very big volume up days going into the future. And I think that's pretty much around the board. Volume is always the heaviest when markets are selling because that creates the most fear and the least amount of complacency.
I mean, you mentioned a short squeeze, so there still is an opportunity for that.
Oh, I think there's a big opportunity. But I think what will happen, I think you still got a lot of the funds and firms trying to sell into this rally, believing that China's a big deal and believing all these other things. But I think what will really happen is that eventually the buyers will come in. We'll start to see something push these higher. And again, maybe we'll get a shorter supply. Maybe there'll be a weather event. I mean, certainly the weather isn't great now. And once they have to start covering, then it's going to be Katie by the door, and they're going to see a much bigger rally.
Okay, Todd, sure appreciate it. Todd Horwitz, Bubba Trading here. And when we come back, we'll be getting into the livestock numbers. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in just a moment on the Marketing Report.